If you want to learn anything further or become not even just an expert, but an advanced layperson in understanding the spine, the mechanics, how it works, how to take care of it, you absolutely need to read Dr. Stuart McGill's book called Back Mechanic, and just read the things that Stuart McGill has put out. He has a bunch of great books that are easy to understand. They're not in-depth medical examinations. The average strength training layperson can absolutely understand them. Anything that I'm teaching you, I'm regurgitating from my time spent with Stu McGill. So I'm just trying to condense these things into an easy place for you to see them and understand. But the advanced learning would be to understand and learn anything from Stuart McGill. McGill's Big Three, as we call them, is something that must be done every day if you're going to take your back and spine health seriously. For many, many years now, I've been doing them religiously every single day. Now what these are the bird dog, the side plank, and the McGill curl up. I'll demonstrate those here at the end of the video, but what I'm going to do first is go through the purpose of what they are. The purpose of the Big Three is to create not just strength, but endurance to everything we've talked about. Hopefully you have watched the breathing and bracing video to understand what we're talking about here. So what the Big Three do are create resiliency, endurance, and strength in the front of your support system, the side of your support system, and the rear of your support system. Now it's crucial to do these every day, or at least religiously, because it will create endurance and strength that you need to maintain for your training. The other time to always do them, and I've done this religiously for years, is you do them immediately prior to training. So what Stuart McGill has proved with his Big Three exercises is they create what we call residual stiffness. So after you perform this Big Three, it's activating those muscles and waking them up, as they will create resiliency and stiffness that may last a few hours through this section where we're trying to create the bracing from. So you do this Big Three before you train, and it will create this residual stiffness that's going to help further enhance what is required out of you to maintain that tightness through all of your lifts. And it's also great to do it first thing in the morning and even in the afternoon, depending on when you train. Because if you do it in the morning and the afternoon and you spread it throughout the day, you're going to keep creating that residual stiffness that will help you throughout the day, whether you're sitting, standing, moving. So understanding these Big Three is vital. If you've never done these before, people are going to be different. Some people may jump into them and it's no problem for them to do. Other people may really struggle with how difficult they are. My guideline-based recommendation is to do each of these for a minute a day. So that means the bird dog is performed for a minute a day, side plank a minute, curl up a minute a day. In terms of the sets and reps, I like to break it down into either 10 or 20-second sets. So on the bird dog, you may do a rep that lasts either 10 or 20 seconds. So if you're doing a rep that lasts 20 seconds, that only needs to be done 3 times a day to get to your minute. Now a minute is the baseline. The more advanced and stronger you are, the more you need to make sure that you are creating that endurance. And it's definitely not good to do the full minute at once. You don't want to hold a bird dog for 1 minute. You don't want to hold a side plank for 1 minute. And actually, if you can hold it for a minute, you're probably not doing it right. It needs to be somewhat difficult because you're not just coasting for time. Anytime you're doing any of these movements, you're doing that breathing and bracing so that it's creating an intense muscle firing and you're not just coasting through the movement. A lot of people could probably sit there and side plank for many minutes at a time, but you're probably not doing it right. You're not just holding a position the whole time you're doing any of the Big Three movements. You're creating that tightness and you're holding that tightness. So again, the set, rep, and time schemes, 10 seconds is a good one to start with. You can do a side plank for 10 seconds, go down and rest for 10 seconds. Side plank for 10 seconds, rest for 10 seconds. To get to that minute a day, you can break that up. You can do 20 seconds in the morning, 20 in the afternoon, and 20 before your training, or however you like to break it up. But again, my baseline recommendation is a minute performing each exercise a day. And that means a minute on the right side, a minute on the left side, so on and so forth. The first of the Big Three is going to be the bird dog. You want to get in all fours like this, and throughout this whole entire movement, key yourself on maintaining that neutral spine. So what the bird dog is going to be is extending one arm out forwards and the opposite leg backwards. You want to cue that front arm by making a fist and trying to think about pushing that fist as far away from your heel as you can, that opposite heel. So you're going to make a fist, push it far forward, and your opposite heel, you're going to push that heel as far backward. And you're trying to stretch that distance between the fist and your heel as far as possible. You'll hold that for 10 to 20 seconds on each side and then go to the other side. Now, how high you raise your fist and your heel will depend on your individual body, because what you don't want to do is create extension in your back by lifting your heel too high. So my heel and my foot doesn't come very far off the ground, because if I lift it any higher, I start to curl my low back, which is what we don't want. So I'll show a demonstration of lifting the foot too high, and you'll see what happens to the low back when you do that. This is good. If I lift too high, my low back starts to round. So you either want to get somebody to watch you or film yourself and make sure that that position looks good. The side plank is pretty simple. One of the things you want to think about is having that top foot actually on the ground and not stacked on top of each other. So your feet are going to be positioned like this. Most of the support is going to be on the top foot that's on the ground, and then the other on your elbow here. And all you're going to do is raise yourself up and maintain that breathing and bracing 360 degrees all around. You're going to hold it for 10 to 20 seconds, rest for about the same time, and then repeat. You want to make sure that your hips are in a straight line with the rest of your body, and that you're not getting either extension or rounding in your low back, and again, maintaining that neutral spine. So the advanced way to do it is from the feet. A simpler way to do it, if you're not able to do it from your feet, is to just simply do it from your knees like this. It's a little bit easier, but over time, you should try to advance to where you can do it from the feet. Now, the really advanced way from transitioning from left to right is to transition from a side plank, front plank, and then to the other side plank, which I'll demonstrate here. You would hold this for 10 to 20 seconds and then transition. The final big three is what's called the McGill curl up. This is in no way related to the traditional sit-up. In a normal sit-up, you would be rounding your back and heaving yourself up. The key to the McGill curl up is to not round your back. You're maintaining that neutral spine and you're maintaining that brace. The recommendation is to put both hands under your low back like this, because supporting your low back like that is going to encourage the neutral spine position. I'm not flexible enough in the shoulders to put my hands under. If you're the same way, you can put a small towel under your low back. So the McGill curl up, you're going to extend one leg out, but you're not trying to do a leg raise. This leg is just laying dead on the floor. You're not trying to lift it at all. You're going to take your breath and you're going to brace like we've talked about. And all you're going to try and do is think about from your hips to your head being one solid line. There's not rounding. There's no segmentation in it. It's one solid rod, one solid line. And all you're trying to do is think about picking your shoulder blades up off the ground a 1/4 inch. It's going to look like you're not doing anything, but it's actually going to be very challenging for your midsection. So you'll hold that for 10 to 20 seconds, switch legs, and repeat. Again, the leg, the hip, the butt is all staying dead on the ground. You're not trying to lift it up or be rigid. It's just lying there. Having one leg out like this helps you maintain a more neutral spine. So again, you're maintaining the neutral spine. You breathe, you brace. Your body is one line, one rod from your hips all the way up to your head. That's not going to round at all. All you're trying to do is lift like this, not any sort of rounding. Just trying to lift the shoulder blades barely off the ground. Again, it's not going to look like you're doing much, but it will be a very intense contraction through your whole core.